Hi, my name is Carl Valerian. Welcome to another aviation educational video. In this video, we're going to answer the question, can pilots use marijuana? And to help us answer that question is Chris Pezalla with the law offices of Strumor Law. Before we get started, though, I just want to shout out to our sponsor and thank them for donating 50 scholarships guides. You know, we have a scholarships guide that has over $120 million of scholarships in them, and the Spartan School of Aeronautics is providing 50 of those for free. You can find out more about that at aviationcareerspodcast.com/free to get your guide, or if you want to give it to someone for free, let them know about that. Anyway, on to the show. Again, joining me, Chris Pezalla, attorney with the law offices of Robert Strumor. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
Good, Carl. How you doing?
You know, I had to laugh a little bit at the beginning because this is a question that we get often, and sometimes I myself have been confused as to the answer. So let's try to put a little more meat on this and figure out, you know, is marijuana, can pilots use marijuana? But before we start that, we have to talk a little bit about legalities. First of all, in the United States, is marijuana legal? And kind of give us some flavor there, because I don't quite understand. Is it federally legal? Is it only by state, et cetera?
Great question, and that's really the crux of the current legal situation. For a long time, marijuana was prohibited both federally and at the state level of pretty much every state. And so there was simply no permitted use of marijuana. What we've seen in recent years is that a lot of states want to see a legal use of marijuana, either for medical purposes or maybe just for general purposes. So what they've done is they have removed their laws or changed their laws to reduce restrictions or not restrict the use of marijuana at the state level. That being said, the federal government has not changed their regulations yet. Congress specifically made marijuana a Schedule I drug, which means it's not permitted for any kind of use. And so at this point, the federal government still does not officially permit the use of marijuana. However, under the Obama administration, the federal government said that they're not going to enforce or they're going to limit enforcement of drug actions in states where the state has made it legal. So in other words, if Colorado wants to make it legal under their laws, it's not going to be federally legal, but the federal government's not going to go out of their way to track down people using these substances in the state of Colorado.
Okay, that makes sense now. So it's state specific. So now we're talking about pilots. We just talked about the laws as far as the U.S. and marijuana. But if you need marijuana for a medical purpose, does that make a difference?
Right, and so that's going to be, at the state level, it depends on the state. And some states have said medical marijuana is approved as long as you have a prescription or a doctor's instruction within that state. So for instance, I'm located in the state of Florida, and we have a provision for that within the state. If you're somebody who's not in a safety-sensitive position and you're not engaged with the federal government, there's really not a lot of issues going out and doing that. However, the federal government does not recognize medical marijuana. They do not recognize any use of marijuana as acceptable. So it is going to be an issue for anybody that is drug tested in a safety-sensitive position or is going to be engaged in a federally regulated activity of some sort, like trucking or aviation.
So that explanation was great for us as citizens. So let's get laser focused on pilots. So I guess the real question again, we'll go back to, can pilots use marijuana?
And the short answer is no, because aviation is a part of interstate commerce that is regulated almost entirely by the federal government, which means that any activities involving aviation, that's airlines, pilots, airports, air traffic controllers, all have to comply with federal law. And that's going to include marijuana, which is a Schedule I drug under the DEA regulations. The DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, regulates these kinds of things, and Schedule I is not approved even with a prescription. As a matter of fact, the federal government will not see a marijuana prescription as legally valid because it's a Schedule I drug.
Okay, so that's the next question that we get all the time. You know, what if I'm a pilot and I have a prescription?
The federal government will not recognize it. Your state might find that acceptable. Your doctor might issue that if they don't realize you're a pilot, but the federal government will not accept that. And if they discover that you've used the marijuana for any reason, with or without a doctor and order, you will be tagged as a drug user by the FAA.
Interesting. So what should I do if I want to fly? Say someone listening here and they want to fly.
So most conditions that are treated with marijuana can also be treated with other types of medications which are approved. So you'll want to talk to your doctor and explain that you're a pilot or you want to become a pilot and that marijuana is not an option. If you're already using marijuana either recreationally or medically and you're looking to get into aviation, you're going to want to consult with an aviation attorney before you fill out the FAA medical application.
If I'm looking for more information, say on the internet, or just in general, if I want to follow along on how this progresses with the use of marijuana, where would I find more information from the perspective of a pilot primarily?
Right. So my main source right now is going to be the DEA, of course, the Drug Enforcement Agency. You can find the schedules on their website. Schedule 1 is not prohibited or non-prohibited items. If marijuana is moved to a lower schedule, that would change. Alternatively, of course, you can speak with an aviation attorney or your AME. But if you're going to speak with your AME, do it before you fill out the medical application. Make sure that you're filling it out correctly. And make sure that you don't need to seek an attorney before you fill out that form.
Chris, I really appreciate you coming here today and talking more about this. And of course, Chris Pezalla with the law offices of Robert Strumor. You can find them at strumorlaw.com. I really have had an issue with trying to put this video together because I get this question often, and it's been a tough topic for me. So it's been a struggle, but this is really good information that we have. I kind of, in the beginning was a little bit put off, like saying, "Gosh, I get this question, but I don't know how to answer it that well." I usually tell people don't, but it, and like you said, I think looking more towards other medications that can substitute for the use of marijuana for whatever condition you're looking at, I think is great advice. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we close?
So, well, of course, as the laws change, we're going to see some new opportunities here. But as far as these substances goes, you're going to want to make sure that you're checking the legality all the way through as a pilot before you engage with marijuana. And also, I believe we did a video on CBD as well, so that would be worth looking at if you're interested. The CBD products are legal, but there's a lot of issues in terms of regulation and quality control.
Awesome. We'll put a link in the show notes to that and all the other discussions we've had about medicals and other issues legally. And with Chris Pezalla here, it's always great having you on. And one of the things I really want people to do is kind of look towards some of those other videos we've put out there. And do me a favor, but give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you dislike this video. I want to know if you want more like this. I know this is a really hot topic here, and we've kind of tried to treat it as just the way the FAA looks at this, and most importantly, how does it affect your medical? So really what I'd like you to do is keep watching this, keep watching what's happening with this in the future. And also I'd really appreciate you subscribing down below. We'd love bringing these videos to you and helping you hopefully in one way, just to educate you and also inspire you. And also a shout out to, of course, our sponsor, and that's Spartan School of Aeronautics. Those are the folks that are giving away 50 scholarships guides, and those are the guides we have over $120 million in scholarships for everybody. And you can find out how to get that guide free at aviationcareerspodcast.com/free. Most importantly, I'd like you to do something for me if you're having a struggle with this, with finding out more information, with medical marijuana, whatever it may be. Try to go out and do something about it. Don't just sit there and be somebody who's passive. Take some type of action today to find out more, whether it's going to Strumor Law and asking Chris Pezalla what's going on the internet, the links that we have below. But take action now, just in general, in your life, in your flying life, in your career. It's always best to take one step today to move forward in your career and your life. And I hope this video has helped you. If you've had some questions about this topic, if you have other questions, of course, feedback at aviationcareerspodcast.com. Also, you can click in the show notes down below. I really appreciate your listening, and safe flying out there. We'll talk to you in the next episode.